Coming up on All About Android, it's me, Jason Howell. We've got Ron Richards, Wintwit Dow, and Mishal Rahman, and we got a lot to talk about. I actually go hands-on with the OnePlus Nord N300 5G, Google TV getting app bundles at the same time, Raspberry Pi getting Google TV. We've got Black Friday discounts galore, the 64-bit only Pixel 7, now with 32-bit, unofficially of course, a nearby share quartet, plus your feedback and a whole lot more next on All About Android.
Podcasts you love.
From people you trust.
This is Twit.
This is All About Android, episode 605, recorded Tuesday, November 22nd, 2022, 32-bit, your Pixel 7. This episode of All About Android is brought to you by SecureWorks. Are you ready for inevitable cyber threats? SecureWorks detects evolving adversaries and defends against them with a combination of security analytics and threat intelligence directly from their own counter-threat unit. Visit secureworks.com/twit to get a free trial of Taegis Extended Detection and Response, also referenced as XDR. And by Bitwarden. Get the password manager that offers a robust and cost-effective solution that can drastically increase your chances of staying safe online. Get started with a free trial of a Teams or Enterprise plan, or get started for free across all devices as an individual user at bitwarden.com/twit. And by Tanium. Tanium unites operations and security teams with a single platform that identifies where all your IT data is, patches every device you own in seconds, and implements critical security controls all from a single pane of glass. Are you ready to protect your organization from cyber threats? Well, learn more at tanium.com/twit. Hello, and welcome to All About Android. This is your weekly source for the latest news, hardware, and apps for the Android faithful. I'm Jason Howell.
And I am, as ever, Ron Richards.
You are.
And I am, as usual, Wintwit Dow.
You are too. And in the fourth corner of the screen, when we have the quad view up anyways, it's Mishal Rahman from Esper.io. Welcome back, Mishal.
Glad to be back, Jason, and thanks for doing my intro. I was
I didn't. That's right. We all got to introduce ourselves, and then I stole it from you. I apologize. Introduce you. If you want to introduce yourself, we can pretend like that didn't happen. It's totally up to you.
I'm not going to give our editors any work, but yeah, hi, I'm Mishal Rahman.
Don't get me wrong. None of it's coming out. There's no editing going on
show.
here. Yeah. It all sticks around. It's good to have you back, Mishal, and good to see all four of us ready to talk some Android today. We've got some pretty interesting news throughout this show. I've got a device, the Nord. What is it? The Nord 300, is it? Yeah, Nord 300. So the OnePlus Nord 300. Talk about that a little bit later. A few interesting tidbits about that came up during pre-show. Yeah, and I think some of us have a little bit of Thanksgiving on the brain. I'm like realizing that this is a short week and kind of waiting so I can get to the food because I'm thinking about we were talking about the food that we're going to make at Thanksgiving in pre-show. So a little distracted. That must just mean that I'm hungry right now or something. So, but it's good to see y'all and it's good to have you here. Let's jump right in. Let's get into some news. Let's do it.
I can't even touch this top first story. There's just no way.
Once again, the mic wasn't even on, and all I could hear from the other side of the room was, it was on. A long groan.
Well, you know what goes with Thanksgiving turkey? I don't know. This is terrible. I don't know. Is app bundles?
Sure. Oh,
okay,
yeah.
Sure.
That's what I think of.
Just bundle some apps with your turkey. Well, so really, so our Google Android Google and Android TVs are certainly smart televisions, but what they don't have a lot of is memory. So Google notes in the year of our smartphone, 2022, most smartphones have around 64 gigabytes of storage, but your TV might only have 8 gigabytes of storage, which is kind of obviously an issue as we kind of expect our smart televisions to do more. You know, a lot of people are starting to have them, and we have like a bajillion different streaming services and thus a bajillion different apps that we got to have on our TVs. But the storage is becoming an issue. And so very recently, Google has announced that in order to serve this, widening ecosystem of TV apps, that they are now going to require developers and publishers wanting to create apps for the Google/Android TV platforms, that these developers/publishers will have to use Android app bundles with archiving in order to publish apps. So we've talked about Android app bundling in the past. It's basically a relatively new publishing format that was announced around 2018, but didn't come into play until 2020. And so basically in the before times, in the before times too, but before app bundles, we as developers, we would just push up what is known as an Android package, which is your app. And it has every single thing that we might need for every single type of device, screen size, screen density, language, whatever, all rolled up into one binary. And you got that, which has a lot of extra stuff in it. So what app bundles have done is to kind of provide Google a way to let developers load all that stuff into Google Play, and then what happens is the Play Store will actually generate an APK that is kind of geared towards whatever device is downloading it. So rather than getting, all kinds of extra stuff that you personally as a user on your particular device don't need, you get a kind of customized APK. So where this comes into play is that, we talked about archiving before, and Michelle wrote a very nice breakdown about how, the actual archiving works, which, helps to nominally save up to 60% of storage when you are, having an app that you don't want to use. Like right now, you want to kind of hibernate it. You can archive it and it, drops down 60% storage. And just in general, using app bundles with this kind of like, couture. That wasn't the word I wanted, but this like couture, it's not this bespoke.
I was going to say, it makes it sound way cooler than it actually is.
Way cooler than it is. This like bespoke, I should tell that I should write a talk about app bundles and just use couture. But these kind of like more customized APKs can save up to 15%. So it's really interesting because app bundles are not exactly like mandatory. Like most new apps have to use app bundles. Most developers, like the places I've worked, have adopted them voluntarily because making smaller APKs is great. But yeah, they are required for archiving because it needs all that kind of special kind of compression magic that, again, you should read Michelle's article about, and which also is now required for TV. So archiving isn't required for most phone apps, but they will be required for TV apps. So if you have a Google TV, Android TV, and you were kind of wondering how much storage space you got in your TV, it's not much. It's really not much.
No, it's not.
It's really not. I said memory, but I meant storage. 8 gigabytes of storage. This makes a lot of sense. And to be honest with you, the impact on developers should be not a lot. Like it's never trivial, but I think when we switched to app bundles, it took whoever was doing it. Actually, it might have been friend of the show, Vishnu, who's a very good friend of mine, like a few days. Google estimates that it should take the average developer like 3 days to do it. So the deadline for this is actually May 2023. So kind of fast, relatively speaking, for Google to demand developers do something. But as they're definitely shifting towards emphasizing, Google TVs and Android TVs as a form factor, there's going to be a thing. So
weren't we just talking about the lack of storage space on Google TV recently?
Yeah, I feel like it's come up a number of times. It really seems endemic to that particular thing. Like in phones, it's never an issue, but on Google TV, it always is. It seems like.
I've run into it with my Chromecast with Google TV, 4K, whatever you call it, where like I literally have to delete apps because I run out of room, which is super
annoying.
Cool. Yeah. So I can't watch PBS. Oh well, and then you've got to do this uninstall, reinstall kind of tango whenever you want to watch something on. It hit a wall with it. It's not cool.
Yeah. What were you going to say, Michelle?
Yeah, I was about to bring up that the Google didn't bring up one of the biggest offenders is their own device, the Chromecast with Google TV 4K, which is an 8 gigabyte internal storage. And I'm sure we've talked about it before on the show. Plenty of people have had storage related problems because they just don't have enough storage on their device, just installing the applications.
And when I think about it right now, I'm like, okay, so obviously they're doing that. And I say Google, other manufacturers do this too with their Google TV and their Android TV devices. I'm guessing they're doing that because it saves cost to have only 8 gigs of storage in there. But storage isn't so expensive that the bump to 16 gigs, like I can't imagine it's that much more. Like, how much does that tack onto the product versus the pain that the consumer goes through when you reach that limit? I mean, 8 gigs just sounds like incredibly under the number that it needs to be. I don't know how you release a device like that and release it with 8 gigs and be okay with it. This certainly helps, but I don't think this suddenly makes those very low storage devices suddenly magically be able to have twice as many apps on there. I mean, it'll improve it. It'll make things a little bit roomier, but not to the degree that as a consumer we can just be like, okay, cool, we never have to worry about that. In the way that we never really have to worry about that with our phones. It's just not a thing we worry about much anymore.
Yeah, and even though even if app archiving, which again allows you to kind of hibernate apps, that's still on the user to do that. That's still up to you to kind of prune through and be like, well, okay, I'm not football season's over, so I don't need ESPN app or whatever. Right. It's up to you to do it. It would be just simpler to stick a few more. Again, I said memory, store a bit more storage in there. And I think it's a really good point. And again, maybe we're not seeing something on the manufacturing side. Is there I don't know, a latency between what we all consider average storage and maybe what TV manufacturers are able to put in TVs. But I can't imagine from 8 to 16, there's some jumps in there that would actually, improve quality of life, but that I don't personally see would be a cost or size increase. But again, not a TV manufacturer personally, but
yeah. I'm guessing I can understand why the very budget low-end TVs might not have more storage, but when you're buying a $3,000, $2,000 TV, I don't really understand why those have such minuscule storage capacities or such low-end CPUs. I don't really know.
Yeah. Or even if you're buying Google's solution, Google, I maybe unfairly, but I tend to kind of put Google a little bit more on a level of expectation that's maybe above some of the other manufacturers out there, just because I think of Google as being the company that's this is how it could be. This is what we want to be the best representation of all the hard work we're doing on the software behind the scenes, the ideal. And then to kind of cheap out on these things, and then as a consumer run into those things and realize just kind of the pain and discomfort that comes with that on a device like that. It's just kind of I expected better. I hoped for better.
Can I deviate just away from the storage, but on the topic of Google TV and Jason kind of drifting off of your expecting better? So I've had the Chromecast with Google TV since it came out, right? The little white puck. Google knows so much about me. We were talking about the Discover tab, right? And Google News and how to tell it what stories you're interested in and all the stuff like that. I am fascinated by how little it seems like Google knows about me when interacting with Google TV. Right? Google should know I have no interest in football. Don't serve up the Monday Night Football banner thing. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Google should know that I don't watch, I don't watch reality television. Don't give me whatever nonsense Love Island things, whatever. Show me sci-fi. You know what you know what I search for. You know what I've rented from you. You know what I watch on the platform. Right? So why can't I get actual valuable recommendations instead of the garbage that it puts up on a daily basis in terms of in that main rotator, and then even on when it tries to bubble up recommended stuff, it never hits the mark.
Yeah.
I was just thinking about that the other day, and I was this is so
most people will like this. That's why we put it there, but
admittedly, I understand that a portion of them have it's ad based, sure. And that's fine. That's I see it says sponsored. I know that's not the thing, but the ones that don't say that's organic, and that should be using what you know about me, and it doesn't. I don't know. I find it very bizarre. It seems again, it's a Google product that we think that this should be the ideal. This is how watching TV can be. This is how great it could be, and it's not even doing what the other apps in the Google sphere can do.
Yeah.
So.
Michelle, you got a little more to tack onto this before we move on?
Yeah, there's an interesting line in Google's blog post announcing this feature or this deadline. They say that a quick archive/unarchive user interface is built into the TV. And that kind of got me thinking about how the rollout of this feature is going to differ than it's going to roll out on smartphones. So on Android TV/Google TV, the launcher is actually provided by Google. All Android TV/Google TV devices have the same launcher as updatable by Google through the Play Store.
Right.
So what that means is that likely we'll see Google roll out an update adding maybe like a long press on the D-pad on your TV remote. You'll be able to archive or unarchive an app from the home screen. They can't do that on smartphones because smartphones are very fragmented. And so your Pixel phone has the Pixel launcher, but your Samsung phone has a One UI launcher. So Google can't push an update to every Android smartphone or tablet that adds a similar built-in archiving/unarchiving feature. And instead, what we're seeing them doing is likely they're just going to be adding this within Google Play Store itself. So it's kind of interesting seeing like the differences between Android TV versus Android for smartphones, and like how, because Google has more of a tighter grip on Android TV, they're able to actually make this feature mandatory and available to all users, versus whereas they can't do that on Android for smartphones.
Yeah. And maybe through that, it ends up getting used more than than it is in other presentations or on phones and whatnot.
It'll certainly be way more useful for TVs, judging by what they said.
Yeah, totally. How do they make that make sense to the wide majority of users, the people who aren't following this stuff closely? That'll be interesting to see. Because if it is up on a TV, then every kind of user is being exposed to this feature, which is kind of a cerebral thing. You know what I mean? Not everybody's going to automatically understand what it means to hibernate an app, or you know what I mean. Also, they aren't going to understand that as much if they've never run into the "you're out of storage space" thing to begin with. So that'll be interesting to see. Well, we're not getting off of the Android TV train. There is other news here that if you have a Raspberry Pi 4 or if you have a Raspberry Pi 400, you can now turn it into an Android TV device, Android TV 13 to be specific, thanks to the unofficial LineageOS 20 ROM that you can flash onto your Raspberry Pi. The code base does include the November 2022 security patch, so very recent as it gets. The developer of this, an XDA developer by the username Constat, had created an Android TV 13 version for the Raspberry Pi. It only operated in tablet mode. This particular version actually runs in TV mode. You can also run it in tablet mode, is my understanding, but you can put it into that official TV mode, and you can boot into that from an external USB drive as well. So, but you don't get everything in it. You don't get Chromecast support since this is unofficial. It does work with apps. You have access to the Play Store, so that's a great thing. I saw someone comment that this probably means that it doesn't support Widevine L1, which I guess that's something that would need to be added more officially, right? And if that's the case, does that eliminate the support for high-def video? This is something that I didn't have time to research, but if so, that seems like kind of a big deal.
Yeah, this build only supports Widevine L3, which is software decoding. So that means it'll be limited to like 480p video in like Netflix or many other applications that use Widevine DRM. But on top of that, this build also doesn't support hardware video decoding. So even if it could like support 720p, 1080p, 4K video, it would run that very poorly.
Okay, so it's a couple of steps forward, couple of steps back. Yes, you can. Are you gonna wanna?
It's one of those can you do it?
Yeah,
but should you do it?
Can, right. So neat. And you know what? And the tinkerers, that have the Raspberry Pis and everything, I think a lot of times it's just, they're just excited when they can get it to do something that it couldn't do before. And this is
just excited just to get it to do something, period. Like, just stop there.
I've seen people turn these, they use these Android TV, or they don't use the Android TV builds per se, but like the regular Android builds for the Raspberry Pi, and they turn them into like semi-decent emulation, like retro console.
Oh yeah, absolutely.
Platforms, and you can actually get a lot of decent mileage out of it because they have somewhat decent CPUs and whatever storage you can hook up to it. And there's some videos on YouTube showing that off, and I think that's one decent use you can get out of this.
That's a huge use. I have a Raspberry Pi at home in an arcade cabinet that was built on Twit years ago, and I think it's a Raspberry Pi 3 in there, but yeah, for emulation of a certain kind of generation of games, it's good up to a certain point. The thing's powerful enough to do that. Obviously putting Android TV 13 on there, different story. Like on one hand, it seems like it would be more than sufficient, more than capable to do that, and as hardware it probably is, it's just it runs into some of these software snags which don't allow you to watch Netflix higher than 480p. So keep that in mind. It's not totally ideal, but interesting nonetheless. So there you go. All right, Ron, you got the last one.
I do got the last one, but actually Mishal's got the last one.
Yeah, it's
Mishal,
true.
you were in the news. You had some breaking news here that you were able to uncover because you spotted a new feature coming soon to the Google Play Store, and it's a prompt that will ask users to update an app that's crashing if an update is available. And currently on Android, you get the hey, this app is crashing a lot. Do you want to restart it? But now it will prompt you to do an update. Mishal, why don't you tell us what you found and specifically what this means and how you found it?
So what I found, how I found it is there's a Google support page called What's New in Google System Updates. And this is where Google outlines features coming in versions of the Google Play Store, Google Play Services, and Google Play System Updates, which is the Project Mainline updates. And this is kind of like a very generic, like a lot of the items they add are very vague. They don't really tell you much about what's going on, but we can sometimes figure out new features that are coming to updates to these applications or services. So one of the lines that was added says, help users to resolve app crashes with new update prompts. And then it had it mentioned in brackets number 8, and it said this is coming with Play Store version 33.2. And basically it was kind of, that told me enough, but I just decided to decode the Play Store application to see if there's any relevant strings or anything related to this feature. And it looks like there's something in Google Play Store that will prompt you to update the app to fix crashes. So whenever an application crashes, the Google Play Store might throw up some dialogue saying, hey, this app stopped working, but the latest update may fix this issue. Why don't you go ahead and install this update and see if it fixed the issue? And this might help solve any problems you might have, but obviously it depends on there actually being an update available for the app that's crashing. And so if there isn't an update available, well then, you're stuck with an app that's crashing.
This does come up a lot, though. Not right now because the app I'm working on is not released, so we don't have to deal with this yet.
I thought you were going to say not right now because the app that I'm working on never crashes.
It's perfect. So there's no bugs whatsoever ever. But yeah, for every app I've worked on, especially at Trello, when we're a little more hands-on with bug reports and support. Usually the first thing they ask you is, are you updated to the most recent version? It's not I'd say a good percentage of the time, a lot of it is, hey, we there's a bug and we push an update, and a lot of times people aren't necessarily on the latest version, and I get why. Sometimes it's not apparent, it's not easy, and also the way that the Google Play Store updates your app is a little bit opportunistic, kind of based on your usage. So I actually was checking some of my apps, and several of them are out of date. So this actually is really nice, and if the user doesn't pay attention or doesn't actually follow through, then it's kind of here nor there. But it is kind of nice to have that visibility. I think sometimes people don't necessarily think about updating the app when they get a crash. They're like, oh, geez, what happened? Especially if they're not a tech enthusiast. So this is cool. This is just a simple little thing that maybe will speed along support processes. So yeah.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. This is the nice kind of thing you like to see that comes out of it. It was hey, here's something that happens. How can we evolve it to being more than just telling you this app is crashing a lot, but hey, you should update it.
Yeah.
So it was interesting. I'm cool with it. So.
Nice.
Good job, Mishal. Thumbs up.
Way to read that update.
somewhat related to this, when I think I'm sure you've seen like reports from developers who accidentally pushed an app to 100% production, and like they discovered, oh, there's a catastrophic bug that causes the crash on boot, and like it's too late. They've already pushed it to 100%, and there's no way to stop the rollout. And I've seen like, some developers recommend, oh, instead of pushing it to 100%, why don't you just do a stage rollout and do like 99.99%, so that you're able to stop the rollout. Like, even though it's technically almost 100%, you're able to stop the rollout using Google Play's built-in feature to manage rollouts. And like, I'm wondering, like, I think maybe Google should just make that the default option. Make it so even if you push to 100% of users, you can still stop the rollout if you want.
I mean, like,
that probably save a lot of headaches.
Time? Yeah.
Yeah, give like a like a Gmail undo feature, right? Do that. Because right now, if you push something that's bad, you got to go through the review period again to push another update, and that could be like 3 days.
Yeah, it's like a hard balance. Like a lot of times, like that's okay. A couple times at Trello, I think there was actually like a database, like with all good, like, I mean, this crap happens, like you overlook something. A couple times we had like a database change. Database change is a little bit harder, especially for us, because like when the database version increments, that means the data has changed, so there's not really much rolling them back. So yeah, there were a couple times where, I don't know, it's just it's hard. Yeah. But I think we've always had like a very slow like spin up. Like I think we were very conservative at Trello. We were like, okay, I think we did 5, 10. We like some Fibonacci sequence or something really nerdy about it. But yeah, no, those things have happened. We have pushed things, and then we somehow get to 50%, and then we hit like some kind of like critical mass where, oh my gosh, all of a sudden thousands of bug reports are coming in. Like everything was fine. And I was like, so yeah, I mean, like I do think like some safety buffer would be nice, because I think that, I don't know, sometimes you just think this is no big deal, and then something that was just something hiding like out of the corner, like a jump scare, just like rah, everyone's crashing and their database is corrupted. No, sorry,
you're not getting any sleep tonight.
We're way past Halloween. Yeah. Oh no, there've been times.
I'm sure.
Fixes, so, but
sure.
no, I think that would be nice to build in a little safety net for people, because devs are people too.
That's right. There's another shirt, another all about Android.
Oh my gosh,
shirt. I like
should
it.
Make that. Mm-hmm.
All right, coming up, we've got some hardware to talk about. But first, let's take a moment to thank the sponsor of this episode of All About Android, and that is SecureWorks. This episode is brought to you by SecureWorks. SecureWorks is a leader in cybersecurity, building solutions for security experts by security experts. They really know their stuff. SecureWorks offers superior threat detection and rapid incident response, all while making sure that customers are never locked into a single vendor. SecureWorks offers an open, extended detection and response platform. They actually call it Taegis XDR for extended detection and response. And now is the time to get it. And you might be asking yourself, well, why? Why now? Well, in 2022, cybercrime will cost the world $7 trillion. That's trillion with a T. But by 2025, that figure is going to grow to $10.5 trillion. In 2021, ransomware totaled $20 billion in damages. Attacks occurred every 11 seconds, but just flash forward another 10 years to 2031, ransomware is projected to cost $265 billion per year, and every 2 seconds you'll see a strike, and that's just crazy when you think about it. Make sure your organization is not the next victim with SecureWorks Taegis XDR. SecureWorks Taegis actually provides superior detection. It identifies more than 470 billion security events per day. They're prioritizing the truly positive alerts. They're eliminating all of that alert noise that could crop up and allowing organizations to focus on the real threat. And in addition to that, Taegis offers unmatched response with automated response actions to eliminate threats before damage is even ever done. With SecureWorks Taegis Managed XDR, you can easily leverage SecureWorks experts to investigate and respond to threats on your behalf, so you can cut dwell times, you can decrease that operational burden, and you can reduce that cost. And with 24/7 by 365 coverage, whether you experience a Christmas Day security event, let's hope that doesn't happen, but if you do, or let's say half your team is out sick suddenly, well, you can trust that SecureWorks has your back. They're behind you. Many companies are facing a shortage of security talent. Sure, certainly you've heard about that, or you might be impacted by that. SecureWorks acts as an extension of your security team on day one. They're alleviating cybersecurity talent gaps. That's going to allow you to customize the approach and the coverage level that you need. And what happens if you've already found an intruder in your system? If you notice that, there's no need to worry. I want you to write this number down. If you haven't already written it down, because we've read it in a few different other episodes, but do it now, 1-800-BREACHED. It's also very easy to remember, and that's a good thing. That number is going to connect you with the SecureWorks Emergency Incident Response Team. They can provide you with immediate assistance 24/7 in responding to and remediating a possible cyber incident or data breach. At SecureWorks, you can learn more about the ways today's threat environment is evolving and the risks that it can present to your organization, including case studies, reports from their counter threat unit, and more. Visit secureworks.com/twit. You'll get a free trial of Taegis XDR. That's secureworks.com/twit. SecureWorks, defending every corner of cyberspace. And we thank them for their support of All About Android. It's good to get you back episode after episode. Thank you, SecureWorks. All right. And with that, we've got some hardware to talk about. Let's dive right into the hardware pool.
That sounds like a very uncomfortable pool.
Yeah. I mean, there's just phones everywhere. There's keyboards.
Watches,
there's mechanical keyboards.
Tablets, yeah.
You dive in and all you hear is like, you know, it doesn't sound very comfortable. Power supplies, yeah.
Ooh.
Oof.
Yeah. Pointy.
Ooh. Yeah.
And cabley. Well, I mean, there is a pool of very nice discounts if you want to get your post-Thanksgiving shopping on. There are plenty of early Black Friday sales. If you are looking to get you a nice smartphone or get yourself, well, you actually get other people or maybe yourself an Android device for the Christmas season or the holiday season rather. So there's some really good discounts out there, y'all. So if you are looking at a Pixel 7 or Pixel 7 Pro and you are currently a Google Fi user, or if you want to be, you can get up to, hold on, I made a chart. You can get up to $200 off Pixel 7 and $300 off Pixel 7 Pro if you are an existing Google Fi customer or if you're transferring. There's usual like provisos and like script and like, fine print about, well, you have to like make sure that you buy it on the same account that you're activating. If you're a new user, you need to transfer your number, yada, yada, 30 days from shipping confirmation. But that's still a pretty dang good discount. I mean, even on the Google Store. Yeah, on the Google Store, if you buy directly from the Google Store, the discount for the Pixel 7 and Pixel 7 Pro is like $100 and $150 respectively. So if you are a Google Fi person, ka-ching!
Or Google Fi Curious.
Oh, Google Fi Curious, yes. If you've been flirting with Google Fi from across the room and like kind of been like wondering if something could happen for real here. I don't know.
Google Fi.
I think it might be the season. I
gotta say that you expect this for Black Friday with this, but since the Pixel 7 has come out, like the deals have been crazy.
Yeah.
Right? The Fi discount, the Verizon discount. A friend of mine said he basically traded in his phone, got a Pixel 7 and paid like $30 or something like that. It was like something. Wow. I forgot the math. I gotta dig up and see what he said.
What did he have? Like a Z Fold 4 or something?
No, I don't. I think he had a Pixel. I think he might have had not a Pixel 6, but maybe a Pixel 4 or something like that. But yeah, just an insane discount. And I just feel like everywhere you're looking around, I'm seeing the Pixel 7 and like these almost like too good to be true deals that are just kind of doubling down leading up to Black Friday. I think it's an interesting strategy, at least in terms of getting the phone into people's hands.
But are we seeing Pixel 7s in the wild? Is anyone seeing
I gotta leave my house to do that.
Yeah, it's true. Don't leave my house a whole lot these days. I'm either here or there. Yep. Yeah.
So in Pixel world, if you want a Google Pixel Watch, and then specifically if you want the Wi-Fi version, Amazon has a pretty decent deal you can get like the Wi-Fi version for $299.
Knocked $50
sorry, my notes.
off.
$299, knocked $50 off, not bad. Unfortunately, the LTE version has no discount. So if you go to Amazon, there's no discount on the LTE version. But, if you were kind of just, again, kind of just slightly like, kind of thinking about LTE, but you're really happy with Wi-Fi and you care more about an extra $50, Amazon has the Wi-Fi version of the Pixel Watch for $299. But if you are not a Pixel fan, but a Plus fan instead, you can get the OnePlus 10 128 gigabyte version for $250 off, down to $550 on Amazon. Again, like
that's a good deal.
It is a really freaking good deal. If you really, really like storage, the 256 gigabyte version is only $70 off. So, that's kind of, it's not the proportion.
Who likes storage? Who wants
Who
more
likes storage? 8 gigabytes of my TV is all I need. Why would my phone need more? But so if you are that kind of person who loves to upgrade the storage, not so much of a deal there. But if you're super happy with 120 gigabytes and you want yourself a OnePlus 10, get you to Amazon and get you $250 off of your OnePlus 10. So there are your early Black Friday deals on some of the hottest or like the flagshipiest to mid-rangiest phones out there. So, and a Pixel Watch. So there you go. Happy shopping.
Yeah. Well, and also so there's a bunch of Samsung price drops as well. If you want the Z Fold 4, that's normally $1,800. That's down to $1,400.
I'm sorry, I put that way down on my notes.
No, it's okay. It's okay. The Z Flip, normally $1,000, that's $800. The point being, if you want to buy a new phone and you've been waiting, Black Friday comes along, there's a lot of opportunity. I always forget, and not as much with phones because I'm always reviewing a phone, but with things like, and a little off topic, but things like audio production plugins, they always go on these ridiculous sales near the end of the year, Black Friday, Cyber Monday, leading up to Christmas and everything. And every year I'm like, well, I really should have set aside money for that. And I never think to do that. I'm sure it's the same with people and smartphones and being able to save like $500-$600 on a premium smartphone, Now's your time if you planned for it. There you go. Let's see here. Oh, yes. So, okay, speaking of OnePlus, because you were just talking about the OnePlus 10 Pro, not too long ago, we talked a little bit on the show about a new device by OnePlus that is definitely not in the premium. It's kind of not even really in the mid-tier. It's really kind of a low, more like a total budget smartphone offering from OnePlus called the Nord N300 5G. I actually got one from OnePlus to kind of give a review and give it a spin. I haven't spent time with it yet. I've just really kind of unboxed it and started to set it up. I will say that I set it up before the show and I synced it to my Google account, which is, the system that we normally do nowadays because Google makes it easy to restore. And I did it from the cloud onto this device, and then soon after, the device started rebooting very randomly on me in pre-show. It was like I was just on the screen, and then suddenly, boop, it would reboot. And I'm pretty certain it's not the phone. I think it's something that's tied to my account in the cloud because this has happened with another phone recently. And then what I ended up doing was totally wiping it and starting fresh and installing everything manually, which is a big pain in the butt to have to do that. But anyways, I say this just to say that I'm pretty certain. I mean, if it crops up for me again as I'm using this device, I will certainly let everybody know. But I have a feeling that the problem's not with the phone as much as it is there's something in my backups, in my cloud backups, that's throwing off devices when I set it up. So anyways, I don't know what the heck that could be, but nonetheless, the Nord N300 5G, I did get it, and I'm going to be kind of giving it a little bit of a spin here, $228. So when you're talking about price category, this is a very affordable device, and you can kind of see design-wise, it really takes some inspiration from the iPhone 14 and the Pro. I mean, it has a lot of, it has that kind of flattened edge, which I feel like we're not seeing a whole lot of in the Android space these days. I mean, there's just some qualities of this that feel very iPhone to me. But this back does a good job of pretending to not be plastic, but it is. But it feels pretty. Solid and sturdy. Sometimes with plastic backs, I feel like there's like a hollow quality to it, and I'm not really getting that with this. But 6.56 inch LCD display. Does have 90 hertz refresh, so that's not a bad thing to have at $228. It also has a 5,000 milliamp hour battery, which is that's a lot of battery for this price especially. So, and oh man, I didn't write down the fast charge, but I want to say it's something like 33 watt or something like that. So, again, you can charge it up a little bit faster. It doesn't have things like wireless charging, that sort of stuff. But anyways, I guess in the $228 category, I mean, I'm thinking back to the story that you were just talking about, and the Pixel 6A with that price drop of $150 brings that down to, I think, $300. So this is, at the price that this is selling without a sales price, this is, $60-ish, $70-ish less than what you get the 6A for right now on sale. And I'm just thinking like the 6A is a solid choice in that price category. But if you want to save a little bit more, maybe you're looking at a device like this, also keeping in mind that you got to be on T-Mobile in order to use this. But being that I'm with Mint Mobile, one of the sponsors on the network, I've been using Mint Mobile for years. They are using the T-Mobile network, MVNO. And so I'm going to put this through some paces for the next week or two and see how it goes. It's been a while since I've spent solid ongoing time with a lower budget device, so I'm really curious to see kind of how that goes. The little fingerprint.
I like the look of it.
Yeah, I do too. I think design wise, again, it always for me goes back to if OnePlus does one thing really well, pretty consistently, I feel like their designs are pretty solid. They're pretty top notch.
Yeah, it's really nice, very clean.
Yeah, very clean. Does not feel like when I pick this up, I do not immediately think, well, this is a cheap device. You know what I mean? Like $225 is pretty darn inexpensive. It definitely feels more expensive than the price might lead you to believe. So yeah.
I got to say, it's been a while since I've had a OnePlus in my hand.
Yeah.
In my inventory, in my arsenal.
What was the last one, if you can remember?
The OnePlus 8, maybe?
OnePlus 8.
Or 7? It might have been 7 Pro with the little camera that popped up.
Oh, wow. Okay, so you're talking earlier era. Yeah.
Yeah, earlier. Yeah, it might have been that. But I will say, I always like their build. Yeah. It feels like they have an identity, right? And it always feels like, yes, this is a OnePlus phone. And so I'd be down to check out a OnePlus phone again, but we'll see.
Yeah. Well, I think they've got another flagship on the horizon. I think I saw a news story. We're starting to get leaks and everything with whatever their next latest and greatest is. I think it's been interesting for me to see the story around OnePlus kind of shift in the last 2 to 3 years, where for the longest time, they were that enthusiast brand. There was excitement there that they were doing a lot with, in a price category that was really a lot lower than the quality you were getting. And like I was just saying, I think there's still truth to that. But some of the luster has really, the shine has really kind of has muted over the last few years. And it's hard to know if that's just their brand has matured, or if they're, have they actively done things that have soured people's taste on what they're doing in smartphones now. I mean, to a certain degree,
soured.
They've made themselves way more accessible in a lot of different ways, and maybe that just kind of removes a little bit of the unique quality of their devices.
Have they grown into complacency?
Yeah, I don't know. What do you think, Michelle? I'm curious to know kind of your thoughts on the evolution of OnePlus in the last few years, and kind of how people are responding to them versus the way they used to. I mean, you were at XDA for years, so you were drowning in OnePlus coverage at one point. I don't know about you personally, but XDA in general.
Yeah, I think, a lot of the enthusiast opinion on OnePlus has soured somewhat based on, them switching over to ColorOS, them becoming less, I guess, friendly with the developer community.
Yeah.
But I think overall it's been a success for the brand to do this because it's allowed them to tap into greater resources, reduce costs across the board. ColorOS is not, I never thought it was a bad operating system. It's different. It's not what people are used to with Oxygen OS. It has some different behaviors, different UI. It's more iOS-like, which is, I guess, the main criticism people had of ColorOS, but I never thought it was bad. And I think it is a solid direction for OnePlus to be going in, but it does feel like they've kind of lost their identity. It does feel like they're just now, people always accuse them of being an Oppo sub-brand, and now it really feels like that's what they are.
Yeah. Yeah, I think you nailed it. That's exactly where I was trying to go. That identity, that kind of unique quality about them, has really kind of flattened, or at least the perception is that's the case. At the same time, they're doing something right because they're in carrier stores now, at least here in the U.S. And that's really, if you are a smartphone brand and you want to be a air quotes success, you got to be in the carrier stores and you got to do what you got to do to get there. And being the old school OnePlus brand where they were only selling online, they were really catering to the enthusiast, developer friendly, all that kind of stuff. You're just not as easily going to end up in the carriers which is where I think you move a lot of devices, like it or not, here in the US. That's just the way it is. So yeah. So the Nord N300, I'll give it some time and let you know what I think in the coming weeks. You can look forward to that. Michelle, you have this next story. It seems like every little segment is a Michelle. There is a Michelle thread in there. Tell us a little bit about how 32-bit support was ejected from the Pixel 7, and then now apparently it's back.
All right, Jason. So a couple of weeks back, Google published a blog post saying that the Pixel 7 is the first 64-bit only Android phone. And it's something we talked about on a previous episode. So what Google announced, they said it's a 64-bit only Android phone, which means that the Pixel 7 can only run 64-bit Android applications. But in reality, the Tensor G2 SoC that's powering the Pixel 7 actually does support 32-bit ARM applications. It's just that the way Google built the Android 13 system image for the Pixel 7 excluded the ability to launch those 32-bit applications. So the way they did it is, so the system image, it still has those 32-bit system libraries and those 64-bit system libraries both included. So what that means that is if you are able to undo what Google did to disable launching 32-bit applications, you're able to, again, launch 32-bit applications. It's kind of a complicated explanation, but basically there's this OS process called zygote. And if you remember back to high school biology, what is the zygote? It's like one of the very basic cellular, when you're making a new organism, right? You have the zygote, and then you spawn, it splits. So that's basically what's going on with Android. You have the zygote, which has these 32-bit libraries and the 64-bit libraries, and every single application process forks out of this zygote process. So it's kind of like, think back to high school biology. What did the zygote do? What was that for? That's exactly what's happening with Android. And so what Google did is say, we have 32-bit zygote and a 64-bit zygote. We're just going to turn off 32-bit one. And the Pixel 7 only has a 64-bit one. And so what developers are figuring out is we can just turn that 32-bit zygote back on. And that's only possible because as I mentioned, the Android 13 image that shipped on the Pixel 7 still has those 32-bit libraries included in it. So, and this is still possible because the Tensor G2 itself still supports 32-bit applications. So it's kind of it's a very hacky solution that some developers have discovered. It's not going to be guaranteed to work forever, because all Google would need to do to disable this is they would just have to ship an update that doesn't have any of those 32-bit libraries included, and then all of a sudden this won't work anymore.
Was it I mean, obviously it wasn't essential that Google make the decision that the 7 be 64-bit only, obviously. So why did they do it? Was it really just to say, hey, this is the future, why not get there now? Because we can.
Absolutely. Like the future is coming. Future devices will only be capable of running 64-bit applications. And like, you can't do any sort of Android hacks to make that, to undo that. Well, I mean, theoretically you could do emulation or some kind of translation layer, like, with, if you're familiar with M1 Max, they have the Rosetta 2. Something like that. You could have 32-bit ARM code being translated to its 64-bit ARM counterpart, or you could just emulate 32-bit applications. But excluding those two things, future devices with ARM v9 CPUs just won't support the 32-bit application binary interfaces, or ABIs, that current CPUs are capable of supporting. So Pixel 7, though, has actually a kind of an older CPU configuration. It's all ARM v8, whereas like the Qualcomm Snapdragon 8 Gen 2 and the new MediaTeks, they're all ARM v9. So Google's Tensor is kind of a few generations behind, but Google wants to push developers to get ready for future devices that are 64-bit only. So they're making their Pixel 7 ship with this configuration where it only runs 64-bit applications.
Yeah. Nice little nudge, a gentle nudge. The way developers love to be pushed into a certain direction, I'm sure, right?
Oh yeah. Sorry, I was reminiscing about zygotes, not in a weird way. They're
so great. Zygotes are wonderful.
So great. No, I always thought it was funny when I first started doing Android development that occasionally when something would crash terribly, or I was trying to debug through statements, I saw zygote in there, and I'm like, what zygote? Like, what's that? Why is it in my Android app, or why with my Android device? Anyway, sorry, I got really distracted. Memory lane, remembering about how zygotes work. Not the Android ones, not the other ones.
That's okay. Michelle mentioned high school biology, and I almost shut down right there because I really did not enjoy that class. So, anyways, we all have different reactions to zygotes on All About Android. That's why you listen. Many different perspectives, many different reactions to zygotes. Ron, you've got the ad. We've got apps coming up, but first, over to Ron.
Before we get to apps, we need to thank our second sponsor of the evening, because this episode of All About Android is brought to you by Bitwarden. And Bitwarden is the only open source cross-platform password manager that can be used at home, at work, or on the go, and is trusted by millions. With Bitwarden, you can securely store credentials across personal and business worlds. Bitwarden recently rolled out password-protected encrypted exports. You can export your vault in an encrypted format using the password of your choice. They also rolled out mobile username generator. It includes support for 3 of the 5 aliases that Bitwarden supports. DuckDuckGo email aliases also have been rolled out, with support for their service has been integrated, bringing the number of supported alias services up to 5. And if you're on the DuckDuckGo bandwagon, DuckDuckGo Mac OS browser integration. Bitwarden partnered with DuckDuckGo to create an integration for their forthcoming Mac OS browser. Stay tuned for when they'll launch this feature. Bitwarden is also a must-need for your business. It's fully customizable and adapts to your business needs. Use Bitwarden Send, a fully encrypted method to transmit sensitive information, whether text or files. Generate unique and secure passwords for every site with enterprise-grade security that's GDPR, CCPA, HIPAA, and SOC2 compliant. Their Teams organization option is $3 per month, and their enterprise organization plan is $5 a month per user. Share private data securely with coworkers across departments or the entire company. And individuals can use their basic free account forever with an unlimited number of passwords, or upgrade anytime to their premium account for less than $1 a month. The family organization option gives up to 6 users premium features for only $3.33 a month. That's nothing. You can afford that. So at Twit, we're huge fans of password managers. Here at All About Android, we've been fans of password managers for years. And we're so excited because Bitwarden is the only open source cross-platform password manager that can be used at home, on the go, or at work, and is trusted by millions of individuals, teams, and organizations worldwide. So get started with a free trial of Teams or Enterprise Plan, or get started for free across all devices as an individual user at bitwarden.com/twit. That's bitwarden.com/twit. And we thank Bitwarden for keeping our passwords secure and making it easy to use it, and DuckDuckGo and all the cool stuff. So thanks, Bitwarden.
Thank you, Bitwarden. Appreciate you. All right. And now it's time. Speaking of awesome apps, it's time for apps. And this segment's featured Michal Block.
Jeez, it's like all about Michal.
All about Michal. Ooh.
It's good.
I like when we were prepping for this show, too. He's like, oh, there's just not a whole lot of news. Hey, what about this stuff? I was like, well, that's half the show.
It is.
No, but this is cool because I did see that there were some interconnected pieces of news about Nearby Share. So I'm curious to hear your take on it, specifically the share sheet stuff, because I think, oh my God, the share sheet is both the best thing and the worst thing all at once. But anyways, tell us a little bit about what's going on with Nearby Share, Michelle.
All right, so on this episode of All About Nearby Share, I got 4 pieces of news related to Nearby Share to talk to you about. So one of the first things is that back at Google I/O, Google announced that you'll be able to share text and images between your Android phone and your tablets through the clipboard, the new clipboard editor overlay that's in Android 13. So in Android 13, whenever you copy something to the clipboard, on the bottom left of the screen, you'll see like a preview of whatever you copied, followed by an edit icon or a share icon. And then what's starting to roll out right now to some users is a new, you can see it on the screen right now, this little PC with the phone next to it icon. You tap that and that opens up Nearby Share. And so if you don't know what Nearby Share is, that's basically Android's equivalent to Apple's AirDrop feature. And if you don't know what AirDrop is, just go Google it.
Yeah, it's just device to device, interconnected sharing of file between devices. That's all it is.
Right.
But Apple has done it really well with AirPlay. It's really seamless.
Right.
Really accessible. People who might not normally spend the time to understand some of the really kind of nerdy features hiding inside of an OS, they're using AirPlay because it's just really easy to understand and easy to use.
So the reason a lot of people compare it to AirDrop is because everyone knows what AirDrop is, right? You pick a random person off the street, ask them, hey, do you know what AirDrop is? Yeah, they probably heard of it. Ask them what's the version of it on Android. They're probably like, their minds will go blank. How many people actually know and use Nearby Share? And that's kind of a problem that Google seems to be trying to solve with this new feature or this new change they're testing. So on that What's New in Google System Updates page that I talked about earlier, there's a new line that says that they're testing adding Nearby Share to the first row of the share sheet. And so that kind of had people a little confused because right now, if you're running a device that's Android 11 or later and you share something, like you open Chrome, tap on the URL and you hit share, right below the preview of whatever you're about to share, there are usually these little chips. One of them will be edit in the case of like images. The other will say like nearby or Nearby Share. And that's what most people on Android 11 or later, that's how you immediately start sharing a link or an image or something through the share sheet. You just hit the share sheet and then hit nearby. But what Google is testing is they're going to start there. They might remove that option and they might put it in the share sheet itself. So as like another item within the share sheet. And if you know anything about the share sheet, there's like a million different other items in that share sheet. So some people are worried, like, what is this going to mean? Is it going to be harder to access it? Is it going to be lost amongst like all the other stuff? And I think what Google is trying to do here is they're running an experiment to see, okay, maybe people aren't clicking the chip that's at the top of the share sheet. Maybe we'd get more usage of Nearby Share if we put it in the share sheet itself. Because before Android 11, devices, and Nearby Share is available on Android 6.0 and later. On devices that are running Android 6.0 to Android 10, that's already where Nearby Share is. It's already in the share sheet row itself. It's not in a chip because that chip feature didn't exist until Android 11. So what Google seems to be doing is they're trying to make the experience of accessing Nearby Share the same across all Android versions. Or maybe they're going to have both options available. Maybe they're going to leave that chip up top, and they're going to have this button in the share sheet itself. And who knows, maybe it might increase usage of Nearby Share, which we certainly, like, I'm sure you all agree, more people need to be made aware of this feature, because a lot of people probably don't know it even exists.
No, totally. Well, and I'm looking at these share sheets too, and mind you, the share sheet has come a long way. It's been a very, historically speaking, the share sheet has had a lot of hate directed at it for many reasons. I think perfectly valid. It's never quite as manicured or easy to understand as it probably should be, or even the experience is different between app to app. So they've made improvements. It's still not quite there. And when I look at some of these screenshots of where Nearby is, yeah, I mean, I don't know how you improve it to make it more obvious, but it still gets kind of like, if I try and put take my eyes out of my own brain and put them in someone who is just an everyday user that happens to tap that share button, are they really going to even know what they're looking at when they see that little squiggly Nearby thing? I mean, maybe, but I don't know. It's still confusing, I guess is my point. It's a challenge. I think it's a big challenge that Google faces in a lot of this stuff. It's like, and not just about Nearby Share, but in a lot of features in Android in general. It's like, these phones can do some really cool things. How on earth do you signal this in a way that people really understand it so that they use it? And Nearby Share is totally one of those features where it's like, man, if people just understood this, it would get used a lot more. I mean, we know that this type of feature is helpful and usable because AirDrop is a very popular feature on iOS devices and Apple devices, and it's used all the time. Why can't Android have a similar, functionality? I don't know. It's, for whatever reason, it still confuses people.
All right, so while we're still on the subject of Nearby Share, a third piece of news came out recently from 9to5 Google, showing that Google is experimenting with the design of the Nearby Share, the sheet that pops up when you initiate Nearby Share, and they're like adding a dash of Material U design to it. And so if we could pull up the image on 9to5 Google, you'll see what it looks like. Basically, you can see like there's like a pulsating, like a cross that's behind your user account. If you scroll down, they even embedded like a video showing it off. Like there's more.
Yeah, there you go.
Like the actual preview of your text has this like this highlight that's like a rectangular oval behind it. It's just more. It just looks nicer in my opinion. It looks more in line with the rest of Material U. Elements.
Yeah, nice. It really ties the room together. Yeah.
Like a good rug.
Yes. I really liked that rug. It tied the room together. Cool.
Is this your opinion,
and the last bit of... Yeah.
Sorry.
And the last bit of news related to Nearby Share is an update on what the heck is going on with Nearby Share for Windows. So back at CES 2022, all the way in January, we're already coming out on CES 2023. So it's been 11 months since Google announced that they're going to be bringing Fast Pair and Nearby Share, so you can share text, images, etc., or pair Bluetooth accessories quickly on your Windows PC. And so people are wondering, like, I'm certainly wondering, like, where is this? This was announced 11 months ago. Why can't we use this yet? So I've been tracking some changes recently to Google's Nearby library. So the underlying library that powers Nearby Share is called Nearby, and that's open source, and it's on GitHub, and you can actually see like the work that Google is doing in the back end to support this Nearby Share feature for all platforms. And there's some hints that they're already starting, they're right now working on implementing Fast Pair support for Windows. So that's like one of the key features that they implemented, that they promised they would implement actually, and that's now supported in the Nearby library. And I'm guessing you could compile this Nearby library for Windows and use it in your own Windows application. I doubt anyone was thinking of doing that because we're probably going to wait for Google to announce this. But it seems like progress is being made, and hopefully we'll have like a beta soon or something. We can actually try this out, because I really want to be able to share files between my Windows PC and my Android phone. And I'm sure a lot of people have the same combination of Windows and Android.
For sure. Cousin of John, our IRC chat, just before we started talking about the story, said, I'd love to be able to nearby share to more than other Android devices. And here you go. It's kind of what it's all about.
A somewhat related tangent to this is, so Windows already has a feature called nearby sharing. And so when Google rolls out nearby share for Windows, I'm almost certain this is not going to cause any confusion whatsoever.
No. It'll be.
Why don't I have nearby share? No. What about nearby sharing? I already have it. Why can't I share it to my Android phone?
Nearby sharing by Google. That'll be.
What's interesting is there are actually some applications on Google Play that support Microsoft's nearby sharing. So if you have the app installed on your Android phone, you can use Windows' built-in nearby sharing to share files from your Android phone to your Windows PC. But I don't believe any applications that use Microsoft's protocol have implemented sharing from your Windows PC to your Android phone. So you have the one-way sharing. But once Google's rolled out, you'll have two-way sharing. But Google's uses something differently than Microsoft's.
Yeah, right.
So totally you can't use, once Google's rolls out, you won't be able to use Microsoft's built-in nearby sharing. You'll have to use some application that they'll be providing to some Windows OEMs, or maybe you can install separately. I suspect there's going to be confusion about this. I guarantee you there's going to be some confusion about this once it rolls out.
It sounds like it. I think you're absolutely right. And that was all about nearby share, AANS, ANS, as we like to call it, week in and week out. Thank you, Michelle, for all that. So this is a news story that tied into something else that I read that I thought would be a kind of an interesting quick discussion we could have. So first of all, the news story. Google Assistant is rolling out a new feature for podcast discovery. So you already know that with your Google Home or your Google Assistant, you can say, play this podcast, and it'll play it from the beginning, right? Well, they're adding in new functionality so that you can search by guest. So you could say, as the example from this 9 to 5 Google article was, play the Pivot episode with Bob Iger. You could search by topic. So you could say, play the Stuff You Should Know episode about the Star Wars Holiday Spectacular. Like, this is actually really cool that you could just do this with a voice command. Search by episode, play the Story Pirates episode about the holidays. What, Ron? You've got thoughts.
I'm a little critical of this, because is this how people use podcasts?
I don't know. It's a good question.
Think about your usage of podcasts, right? So, like, you have a podcast player. You subscribe to your podcasts. Yeah. Those are the ones you listen to. You might discover a new one, but you're in the act of doing it. You go into Spotify or Pocket Cast or whatever app you use, and you download that episode and you subscribe to it, that sort of thing. I don't think I've ever thought, wow, I want to play this podcast with this guest. Like, it just doesn't think that way, Like, I don't know. It's like, it is cool, but I just don't see people using this practically.
I have definitely looked for podcasts that had a certain guest on them.
Yeah, like a WTF episode or something like that.
Or just a person, like Brene Brown, let's say. So, play a podcast interviewing Brene Brown. I might not know the name of the podcast, but I know that I want Brene Brown to be the guest that is interviewed. Yep. That would be really helpful because, as we know, after however many years we've been doing podcasts, it's like certain people, like, that's part of their circuit. That's their circuit is they hop from show to show and they do their little thing and whatever. It's just kind of part of how podcasting goes. But I'm also kind of reminded, like, I just shared a podcast called Tape Notes with a friend of mine who's a musician. And I say, hey, I've been listening to this podcast. It's been really inspirational to me. You should definitely check out the episode with DJ Shadow. So I could see him saying, hey, G, play the Tape Notes podcast episode with DJ Shadow. And that would actually be really handy, right? He might not care about any of the other podcast episodes in that feed, but he could get right to the one that I recommended. But how often does that happen? Not very often.
Right. Yeah.
It's like,
Interesting. But anyway, let's hear the rest of this.
Well, so this news was I thought just kind of interesting. Like, hey, yay! I love more exposure for podcasting in functionality like this. But this reminded me of another article of which I had only read the headline at this point about Amazon and the ALEXA being a quote colossal failure, and apparently after 10 years now that the Amazon Echo has been around, if you can believe that. Go and watch that premiere, the very first video. Remember that staged video of the family using their Echo for the first time? It's hilarious 10 years later. Apparently it's losing money, $3 billion in Q1 2022. It's on pace to lose $10 billion this year alone, double the losses of any other division at the company. And as we know, Amazon's got a lot of layoffs happening. All big tech companies right now are at least in the process of analyzing and reducing staff. Amazon sells apparently a lot of these Echo devices. I mean, they're always on sale, but they're always selling it for cost apparently. And they aren't really generating revenue for the company after the fact. So this is all Amazon related, but it got me thinking about the Google Home and what we think, like, is this just indicative of this type of device or this type of voice service? Like, I know Amazon, early on especially, were thinking, oh, people will buy products from Amazon using their voice. And I always thought that was kind of ridiculous. Like, I'm sorry, I want to look at my thing on my screen to say, yes, that's exactly what I want this $50 to buy, not do it in the...
I will say my sister's family, I always use my sister as an example, but my sister, they got an Amazon, they got a device from Amazon that they could talk to and talks to them. And, they embraced it, and like I was just over there this weekend, and like something came up and they said, "Hey, add this to my shopping list," and it added it, and like so they are integrating it and using it. I don't know if they're shopping directly from Amazon. It's going to like a shopping list like in Google Keep, like what we use.
Sure,
when they go to the supermarket.
Sure.
They but like that's still an interaction that they're using via voice. Mm-hmm. Which I find interesting, but like it also doesn't get used as much as it did when it was a novelty, when you're like asking it questions and doing stuff like that and all that sort of deal.
It can tell me anything I want to know. Isn't that cool? And now it's just like, it's just shut up. Yeah. Shut up, Google.
By the way, speaking of that, by the way, like again, I feel like I ranted about Google TV, but like a couple of days ago, I got so annoyed because in my bedroom we have a Google Home Mini, and I was getting ready and I said, hey G, what's the temperature right now? And it's like, the temperature in Long Island is 32 degrees. And then it's like, did you know that you, and then basically explain to me when you say good morning to Google Home, what happens. It's like, did you know that you can hear your schedule and blah, blah, blah. I'm like, yes, I've been using you for years. I know that. Like, it's, I don't like using voice to tell me more than what I've asked for.
Yeah. Yeah.
Right. So
getting that voice spam.
Our Mini does that a lot, actually, and specifically our Mini likes to suggest. And I'm like, how long have you been in this house? I know.
Right. Or do you read the room? Read the room, Google.
I know you know who I am. I've got voice match on. You know who I am.
You know who I am. Actually, I don't know. I feel like my Nest Hub Max, or I think both of us feel like our Nest Hub Max is having issues. Like the when you have a timer going and you're supposed to have been able to say stop to stop it, she won't do it for me no more. She lets me scream at her to the top of my lungs. Actually, I don't know if I've told this anecdote yet, but both my husband and I have been studying Japanese, so we actually have our Nest Hub Max set to allow for Japanese input. And I once asked her to do something in Japanese, and she refused and then responded to me in English. And then my husband said the exact same thing to her, and she did it and then responded back in Japanese. So she's judging me, y'all.
Dang.
She finds my Japanese unworthy, mediocre, apparently. So.
Wow. Well, I'm just realizing we've got a vacation coming up to Costa Rica next year, and I've been thinking like, gosh, how do I get our family really, kind of in the mindset of speaking Spanish and leading up to it. That's a really great way to do it. I like that
it's funny. It can do both. So, even if you kind of give up, you can just default to English. But right now ours is set up in like Japanese. So it's kind of good immersiveness. But, if you really need to do something.
You can
it's
do
no
both.
big deal. But do that. Do it.
Interesting. So anyways, I just thought it was an interesting kind of perspective, and also just realizing like, whoa, it's been 10 years since we've had like devices like these in our homes. And we've, at least in our family, like that we still use them on a very regular basis. Mind you, we don't use them for all the things, that I think when you first get these devices, when they were really selling them hard early on, it was like, oh my, just think of all the things, the ways this is going to make my life easier. We're using it for music. We might be using it for timer. We're using it for weather, it's pretty basic stuff, but
I mean, the Google Home Nest Hub is a media device. It's YouTube Music and Netflix, as we talked about last week, which, by the way, it is now working again. I know I posted on Twitter about this, but like Google actually did resolve my issue that I talked about last week, and Netflix and Google Assistant are now connected and it works on Nest Hub again. So go complain if something's not working the way you need it to be. They'll fix it. But and I use it for kitchen timers and what's the temperature, and that's basically it. Every now and then a search. I asked it what the Disney stock price was yesterday, and it told me.
Yeah. Every once in a while. Yeah. Or my girls, my younger daughter's in the other room doing her math homework, and then I'll hear her say, "Hey G, what's blah 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 by blah blah blah?" I'm like, nope, you can't do that. You got to figure it out on your own. Google's too good. But she's figured that out.
I wonder if the next year's Pixel tablet is actually kind of in response to this market trend. So like, I was actually kind of surprised to hear how much money like Amazon is losing on Alexa.
Yeah, I was too.
I'm sure the figures probably aren't very great for Google either.
I would agree.
As you mentioned, you probably don't use your Nest Mini smart speakers to do much other than like set timers or listen to music. Like,
right.
Google probably doesn't extract much revenue from you after you buy the hardware, and they probably don't make much money off the hardware either. But with the Pixel tablet, though, you're going to be presumably using that as a tablet, like a regular device at home, probably making purchases through Google Play or through many of the other ways that Google can extract money from you while you're using the device. So maybe this is like the Pixel tablet already feels like a kill three birds with one stone product, considering it's going to be like a tablet and a smart speaker and a smart display. Plus, maybe it's in response to, hey, we can actually make a lot more money off users using this as a tablet. So who knows? Maybe that might have been one of the reasons why they're making this product.
Yeah. It's interesting as I'm hearing you talk about that, because I think what I'm struck by is just how different Amazon's mission is versus Google's mission. I mean, they're both major companies. They want to make money, obviously, but Google really has positioned its entire business around search and around, search and ads and that sort of stuff. So from Google's perspective, these devices, I would guess, are much less about actually making them money and much more about the knowledge graph, tapping into the knowledge graph, keeping people familiar with thinking of Google when they think of needing to do something that has something to do with knowledge or search or whatever the case is, because the more people are bought into the Google ecosystem, the more they are exposed to the things that really do make Google a lot of money, versus Amazon, which they're making this piece of hardware to tap into their sales service, their store, basically. And when I think of these devices, I'm just not in the category of person that thinks, oh, this is going to be a really great way for me to buy things. I just have never thought of that device in that way. And so it just kind of shows how different the companies are. And maybe their goals with these devices are quite different. So, anywho.
Anyway.
All right. So, Win, over to you, because you got the JR tip.
Yeah. So I think one thing that's interesting about, chats and like our kind of modern, it's been like 20, 30 years of, asynchronous chatting over messaging, SMS, like every kind of asynchronous thing we have. And like a lot of times, I don't know about y'all, but when I'm talking to my friends and family, I'm usually talking about three things at the same time, and that can get confusing.
We've had very confusing.
Yeah, it's very. That's kind of how it is. I'm like, talking about like the new season of Bleach, but then also talking about how much yogurt I accidentally bought today. I'm opening a yogurt store apparently, and then asking my husband whether he can make me a coffee, and although 3 of those things are going on at the same time, so he gets confused. So if you're like me, maybe talk about one too many things at the same time. J.R. Raphael of Android Intelligence has a tip for you and for me, honestly, to kind of help clarify things. So J.R., what do you got for us?
Hey gang, happy Thanksgiving to everyone here in the States. I'll tell you one thing I am always thankful for, and that's the discovery of a fun little feature hiding away somewhere on my phone. Seems to happen a lot here in the land of Android, doesn't it? Well, this week, ahead of our holiday break, I've got a good one to share with you, so grab your phone. Let's do this. All right, so this tasty little gem is inside the Google-made Android Messages app. It's something we heard about in passing a while back, and the other day I accidentally stumbled onto it and realized that Google had rolled it out without actually telling anyone. So it's a new feature that lets you respond directly to any individual message and create a threaded reply, kind of like what you'd see on Slack or any other modern messaging service. So in any conversation that's using RCS, conversation with someone else who's also using the Google Messages app, generally speaking, you can now just swipe to the right on any individual message to reply to it. That'll cause a little arrow to appear alongside the message, and when you let go, you can then just type your reply. Your reply will show up with the original message quoted right above it for context, so it's not quite the same as what you see in Slack exactly, but it's a nice way to create a point of reference and make it clear what you're replying to, especially if a lot of other messages have come in since. Now, this feature seems to be in the midst of rolling out to the Messages app as we speak. It's been on my phone for a handful of days now. I've checked with a bunch of other people, and almost everyone seems to be seeing it. So give it a look, check, make sure you're looking at a conversation that's part of RCS, that's with somebody else using the Google Messages app. And if you still don't see it, give it a few days. You know how Google can be with this sort of stuff. You'll probably get it on your phone any day now. And hey, remember, if you want to learn even more new and useful stuff with me every week, come check out my Android Intelligence newsletter. It'll give you 3 new things to try in your inbox every Friday, directly from me to you. Just head over to androidintel.net/twit to get started. That's androidintel.net/twit. Hey, hope you have an absolutely wonderful Thanksgiving if you're celebrating it. I'll see you back here next week.
I gotta admit, Google Messages, pretty cool. Pretty darn cool. Although it is the caveat, it's got to be with someone on RCS using Messages, which is just like, that's probably a smaller population than I want. So,
yeah. But I mean, it is improving. I'm seeing a lot more of that in the conversations that I'm having with people, at least with Android devices.
Agreed. Yeah.
That's the crummy thing. If you're chatting, if you're messaging with someone on iOS, you're not getting any of those features. And that's a lot of people here in the US.
Yeah, I tried this, and I actually struck out, and then my husband and I actually don't use Messages, we use Signal, so I sent him a couple of texts because I just had to try it for the show. He's the only person like other than I don't know, some random person from a conference I met who I know is an Android dev. They're like, hey, random, here's a message. It is unfortunately just RCS. So back to Signal for me, which does have that feature, by the way. But yeah.
All right. Well, thank you, JR, for always giving us wonderful tips each and every week. I love this, that we have, JR's tips in the show. So thank you for that. Have a wonderful Thanksgiving yourself. Appreciate it. All right. Let's take a quick break. Thank the sponsor of this episode, and then we will get into some feedback, some emails that you all sent in to us. But first, this episode of All About Android is brought to you by Tanium, the industry's approach to cybersecurity. It's fundamentally flawed. IT management and security point tools offer only a small piece of the solution that's needed to protect your environment. Many of them promise that they can stop all breaches when they simply cannot. Making decisions based on stale data and trying to defend your critical assets from cyber attacks with tools that don't actually talk to each other is no way for IT teams to navigate today's attack surface. And it's time for a different approach, and Tanium has that approach. Tanium says it's time for a convergence of tools, endpoints, and IT operations and security. Tanium has solutions for government entities, for education, financial services, retail, healthcare. You can trust their solutions for every workflow that relies on endpoint data. So you get asset discovery and inventory. So you can actually track down every IT asset that you own instantaneously. You get risk and compliance management. So you can find and fix vulnerabilities at scale in mere seconds. You get threat hunting. So you can actually hunt and find sophisticated adversaries in real time. You get client management. That allows you to automate operations from discovery to management, and then sensitive data monitoring. So you can index and monitor sensitive data globally in seconds. Tanium protects organizations where other endpoint management and security providers have failed. There's a single platform with Tanium. They identify where all your data is across your entire IT estate, patches every device you own in seconds, and then implements critical security controls all from a single pane of glass. Kevin Bush happens to be the vice president of IT at Ring Power Corp, says Tanium brings visibility to one screen for our whole team. If you don't have that kind of visibility, you're not going to be able to sleep at night. Listen to Kevin. With real-time data comes real-time impact. If you're ready to unite operations and security teams with a single source of truth and confidently protect your organization from cyber threats, it's time that you met Tanium. You can learn more. All you got to do is visit tanium.com/twit. That's TANIUM. Tanium.com/twit. Check them out for yourself. I think you're going to like what you see there. And we really thank Tanium for their support of All About Android, for keeping everybody protected and safe and secure. All right, AAA at twit.tv, 347-SHOW-AAA. If you ever want to leave us a voicemail or drop us some feedback, that's where you go. Like this person, Ron.
Yeah. So Derek wrote in, and Derek,
a little salty at the top, I realized, but I thought
salty. But so salty. Derek has to say, Ron's comments surrounding the use of Amazon Photos is truly ridiculous.
Ridiculous, I say.
Oh my God.
Every tech enthusiast tells you to follow a 3-2-1 backup system. This is one of those for me. If you're a Prime member, why wouldn't you use it? It's free for unlimited storage of full resolution photos. The only real limitation is that you only get 5 gig for video storage. I get that Google Photos has a great compression algorithm, but it's still compressed, and you only get 15 gig for free, and that storage is shared with your Google Drive storage. Here's where it gets really interesting for any photographer. Amazon Photos accepts most raw camera formats, again, without compression. A large portion of your audience are Prime members, including Ron, if I recall correctly, and this service is included with that membership. Why not take advantage of it? Not everyone, especially in this time of seriously high inflation, has the money to just pay for more storage with Google. All right, Derek. A little salty, and let me give you direct answers and responses. All right. Number one, yes, I am a Prime member. I pay for Prime. I utilize it for the shipping and video and stuff like that. I am not a photographer by any way, shape, or form. I don't have any device. I don't know. Can my Pixel 7 take RAW? I don't even know because I don't care. Right. So yes, I agree with you that is a great feature. If that is important to you, it is not important to me. I totally get you on a 3-2-1 backup system. Pretty sure my stuff is safe on Google though. I don't know. Pretty sure. Like I haven't seen a major data loss there in several years. I feel like they know what they're doing in terms of cloud storage. I started on Google Photos, and that's what my infrastructure is like set up around. And guess what? Amazon does offer a lot of great value adds for being a Prime member. What they don't offer you is great UI or seamless integration with your devices and apps on the phones and stuff like that. And I just don't have the time or the motivation to set that up because, going again, I'm not a photographer. It's not a priority for me. If my situation was different, you're totally right. It would be a great perk. It would be a great way to utilize it, to have that great full resolution backup if those things were important to me, but they're not. So I'm happy with Google Photos. No. Don't at me. I don't know.
Right? I think yes, but the point is totally valid too, right? Like if you do have Amazon Prime, why not? I'm an Amazon Prime member, but I don't automatically back up my stuff to Prime. And I mean, maybe I should, but I don't. Like I go to Google Photos, I go to my my NAS at home, which does me, which is a second point, but it's still at my house. My house lights on fire. It goes up in a ball of flames, which I hope never happens. I guess my backup is the cloud, but again, it's 3-2-1 backup, right? Like that doesn't follow that category, and having it in another place would, I guess make sense. I don't know. Sometimes it's just like, I don't want to set up another thing.
Stuff.
Or I don't want my phone syncing to 5 different places with every photo that I take,
Yeah.
Or like to your point, setting that up and having the need to set it. I just don't have the need to set it up. So it's cool that I have it. It's not a feature of Amazon Prime that I didn't get Amazon Prime for that. So
yeah. What about you, Michelle? What's your backup scenario with photos? Or do you have one?
I embarrassingly don't have one. I thought about it.
I outed you. I'm sorry.
Like I'm not a photographer.
Yeah.
And I mean, as y'all mentioned, it's like there's best practices and then there's what's convenient. And I'm like, do I really care that much about about most of the photos I take? Maybe when I start caring more about the photos, like maybe, if you have a kid, right?
Yeah.
Those photos are really, really, really important to you. Then I'd get a second. I'd get a second or third backup. But like my random photos that I take when I travel, like I really don't care about them that much. Maybe I should. Maybe there's some photos that maybe I might regret 15 years down the line if they're gone. But it's something you got to evaluate on your own if it's worth it for you.
Yeah,
it's definitely not worth it for everyone to have 3 tiers of backups for everything. For some people, yeah.
Yeah, I also have to say, like, my own backup situation is, like I said, going to Google Photos in the cloud and then going to my NAS at home, my NAS storage. And even that's just 2 places. Even that gets complicated for me because sometimes the NAS goes offline and I don't realize it until later. And then I'm like, oh, wait a minute. Okay, so all my photos are in Google's cloud. Most of them are on the NAS. Now I got to figure out which ones, sometimes the app will keep track of that, but which ones are actually backed up there, which ones aren't. If I'm on my desktop, then I got to remember if I move something into Google Photos, I've got to also remember to open up, log into my NAS and move it over there. It's just more things to think about, which is wow, I guess, what do you call it? First world problems. But adding yet another thing into that tier, while that is incredibly, responsible to do, because then you're backed up again, sometimes it's just not as practical. And that's what I run into even with just these 2 points of place. I still do it. It's just sometimes it's more inconvenient than I wish it would be. I wish it would be more convenient than it is.
Real talk, I've actually considered setting up, some people have like a spreadsheet for their budget. I've considered doing like a spreadsheet of digital services just because of how complicated things have gotten and how many different services I'm subscribed to. Just keeping track of everything is so hard.
That is legit. I mean, like I kind of feign at that by like every time I have like I sign up for a new service, I try to keep a Google note or even just like tag it as like literally services in my Gmail box. It's just it's hard. It's really hard. And then something pops up like, I was signed up for that. What was I thinking? What's on it? Was that needed? I guess at the time I thought it was needed. I don't know. I don't know. We've wanted to set up a NAS for so long, but I mean, even as like techie people, the overhead on that is just so high, and like it's like a different skill set than I think a lot of us have. So yeah, we're not 3-2-1 up in this house, although we should be. I am for video stuff. When I was doing a lot of video stuff, because that was really precious to me. I don't know why it's more precious than family photos, but I think because I just spent a lot on getting footage, I would do. I guess I had 3-2-1. Maybe I just had 2-1, but I don't know. Even that felt like, wow, I'm running out of storage now, especially with like larger file formats and like different things. So then I was like, okay, Google Photos. That's it. Or some other kind of, go away, G. Go away.
Do you need me? I'm listening. I'm right here.
Anyways.
Read the room, Google.
With all of your podcast functionality, don't you know that we're recording a podcast right now? Like, read the room. Jeez, Google. All right. Thank you, Derek, for writing in. Even if it was a little salty, sometimes that's fun
fine.
too.
It's okay to be salty sometimes.
Yeah, it's okay. So. All right, Wynn, you've got the next one.
Well, Scott also has some kind of maybe like opposite perspective or kind of devil's advocate for. I get some feedback I gave. I think was it last week when I was talking about. I was talking about the Pixel. We were talking about the alleged Pixel Fold, and it's alleged price of $1,800. I know I personally balked at that, but Scott has some very good perspective to provide to us. And Scott writes as saying, while I agree that $1,800 is an eye-watering high amount to spend on a phone and that it'd be nice if they were more affordable so that more people could have them, it's worth taking a historical look here. Consider the first flip phone, the original Motorola StarTAC, which came out in 1996 for $1,000. $1,000 in 1996 dollars adjusted for inflation is equal to $1,816 today.
Interesting.
So over time, that StarTAC came down in price to the point where even poor me had one, and they became extremely common and popular in and of themselves, let alone all the other brands and models of flip phones that came out later for even less money. And I think that's a really fantastic point. And maybe it is maybe like I Scott, I think you're totally right. I think it's worth looking at foldables and flippables, even like in their own category, because they're phones. So maybe that's why I'm getting hung up a little bit, because I'm already like balking at paying like almost $1,000 for my flagship phones, or more because I have this thing before trade-in. But I think that's a really, really great point, because remember some of us who were alive then remember those big phones that cost like $20 a second or $20 a minute to, back in the day before even like the StarTAC came out. And that seemed like,
with a cord.
With a cord.
Yeah.
Oh, man.
Oh, yeah.
Those came with cords? Did they have a little purse that went with them or something? With a kit to carry all the...
It did.
So, that seemed like a ridiculous luxury item at the time, right? But now, like, we all have one, even in, like, developing parts of the world. So I think it's a really good perspective, and I really appreciate you looking up some kind of historical price data, because that's a really good point. And maybe looking at this as something a little bit different than your average phone makes a lot of sense. So... Yeah.
I will say anytime anybody drops the adjusted for inflation calculation, I'm count me in. I love it. That's the best conversation ever.
I was so surprised. Yeah. Like, okay. So, well, I will just take it as Scott. Like I feel less bad. I feel less bad about this now. I did trade in though. So, but thanks Scott
helps.
for giving us a little perspective.
Thank you, Scott. And now it's time for the email of the week. John May is the lucky individual this week. Says, Ron, I am still using KitKat on an old... I like how he singled you out, Ron.
Well, I said if we were still using KitKat, let us know. So I appreciate, John, you letting us know. Thank you. So.
I hope it's okay, John, that I'm reading this email. Says, I'm still using KitKat on an old Samsung Galaxy S3. It is running IP webcam, and I have it mounted over our barn cat's water and food bowls. It is aptly named the Cat Cam, though in hindsight, Cat Cam with K's would have been better, and is integrated with both my Home Assistant and my Motion Eye systems. I also have a Samsung S7 running Oreo and a Huawei Mate 9, also Oreo, running IP webcam as security cameras in my outbuilding workshop. I went on a binge of repurposing old smartphones shortly after retiring a few years ago. I check them every few months for battery bulge to avoid burning the place down. That's smart. And then he did include a couple of photos that I linked to. This is one camera looking down on the one cat cam looking down on the cats. And then I think the other photo is the actual device itself, or one of the cameras, one of the phones set up as a camera. It's okay. There's another link there. We'll show it in a second. But I love it. I love, we've asked about this in episodes past, like what do you all do with your old devices? How do you repurpose them? There we go. It's all mounted up there and plugged in eternally outside. It weathers. It stands up to the cold weather out there, although it's not exposed to like rain and everything. But you never know. If it's outside, it's exposed to who knows what kind of weather potentially. What's that? It's got I mean, it's protected. That thing looks pretty, well designed. Good job. That's how you do it right. I love it. I do wonder, are there ever any times where the phone, like if an app locks up or the phone reboots, like the OnePlus that I showed off earlier, and then you've got to get up there, and tweak it every couple of days? It sounds like no. It sounds like this system works really well for you, and I just think that's pretty awesome. So
it's nice that it's camouflage too, because I did have a friend whose webcam was stolen.
Oh,
because
wow.
I mean, I don't know whether the people that took it just didn't care that they were on camera, but like a friend of mine had a couple of his very nice, I assume they were like Unify or some kind of similar brand Nest cameras stolen. So but I like that actually the case for the cat cam is camouflage to look like the roof, so even if anyone saw that, they might not know what it is, just
totally.
That's wonderful. I love that.
You don't look at that and think, oh, that's a smartphone.
I mean good luck.
And even if you did, that's a smartphone from like 10 years ago. So it's probably, great.
That's what you get for taking people's stuff.
Steal my $20 smartphone, that's ancient. Pretty awesome stuff. Thank you for sending that in, John. And congratulations, because you're the email of the week. There you go. You can feed your cats some extra special food to reward them for being famous. We have reached the end of this episode of All About Android, and it's always a lot of fun. And Michelle, thanks so much for hopping on with us once again. It was kind of a last minute thing. You were like, hey, I'm available. I'm like, heck yeah. We always love getting you on. So thank you. What do you want to leave people with? What do you want them to know?
Thanks, Jason. So if you want to know what's happening in the world of Android, follow me on Twitter at Michelle Rahman. Actually, Twitter, who knows how long that'll be a thing. I'm also available on pretty much every other platform. Just search at Michelle Rahman, same username everywhere else. But if you want to follow my blog posts, that's at esper.io, where we also have a business managing, deploying fleets of Android devices. So if you're in that MDM adjacent space, come check us out, esper.io.
Yes, indeed. Check it out, esper.io. Cool stuff they're doing over there. Thank you, Michelle. Wynn, what do you want to leave people with?
You can find me on the social medias at Queen Code Monkey. You can kind of currently find me on Instagram, that bird site, and at Queen Code Monkey at mastodon.social. I still got to work out how to make that a little bit smoother.
It's hard.
It's hard, but you can find me there, and you can find any Android-related technical content that I do, talks, code, and video on my website, randomlytyping.com.
Right on. Thank you, Wynn. Mm-hmm. And what about you, Ron?
Yes, and I will avoid any snark about social networks, but my handle's RonXO, and you could pretty much find me everywhere on that handle. That's worth being at, although I'm not posting that often that much. But yeah, just go do that, and I'm going to go to bed soon. So.
All right. Well, almost good night, Ron.
Almost good night. Good night, Ron. Good night, Moon. Good night, Ron.
That's
good night,
right.
Google. Aww. Good night, Android. Good night, Google. Good night, Mountain View.
Good night, trash cans.
Yep.
Yeah. Big thanks to JRA Phil, Android Intelligence. Make sure and check out his work there. And keep them coming, JR. I love your tips, so appreciate it. Thank you to Burke here in the studio for pushing buttons, talking occasionally, and deep sighs when he's disapproving of something we're talking about from the other side of the room. Also, big thanks to Victor, who is
loud sighs.
Yes, very loud, but audible to me. Maybe not audible to anybody on the show because the mic is usually muted, but I hear it. Thanks to Victor, even more behind the scenes, publishing this show, editing it if it's needed, making sure that you can actually download it on a daily basis. Couldn't do it without you, Victor. You can find me at Jason Howell on Twitter. You can find me on Mastodon as well. Twit Social. What do I even say at this point? I still don't even know.
That's the problem with Mastodon. You don't know what to say. I will say that I keep getting followers on Mastodon thanks to mentioning it here. So cool.
Yeah. I mean, actually, it's wow. I hadn't looked at the follower account. There's a lot of people going to the twit.social. So check that out. Twit.social / Jason Howell. I think that's how you can find me.
I will say I don't know if the viral moment has hit the tech side of things, but in my other world, on the comics and geek kind of side, everyone is flocking to Hive Social. That's it's called Hive Social. It's basically, it looks like a Twitter clone, that sort of thing. But there's a whole lot of real estate. Like I claimed my spot here on this social network.
Yeah, so I got my name.
I'm gonna try to grab it just in case. But the Android app is like in beta and it's rated like 3.0 out of 5. Which
I have it. It's not. It looks nice, but it's not great. Maybe we do a deep dive on it next week. I don't know. That could be interesting. But maybe we should do like a little Mastodon, Hive, like Twitter alternatives.
Discussion. Yeah, there was a story I almost put in today. I can't remember the name of it, but the ex-CEO of Waze, I think, has a Twitter. Yes, of course. There's a lot of that going on. Yeah, maybe we could do that next week.
I will say it's kind of fun. Oh, sorry. Go ahead. Never mind.
No.
I will say it's funny because a lot of the Android devs have hopped onto Mastodon, and then what happens is when you get a bunch of Android devs looking at an open source client for Mastodon, so to their, I mean, like, not to like denigrate any of the efforts of the Mastodon folks for their open source, but a lot of the Android code was a little bit older, written all in Java, some of the older like patterns and libraries. So you got dozens of Android devs coming in, seeing this like open source project that isn't using modern Android techniques, and it's like, I feel bad. I had an image of like Stranger Things when like the bat things come in. It was like that a little bit. I was like, oh man, these poor maintainers of this lovely open source software. Here come the Android devs, like with their
poor unprotected software.
Anyway, we still appreciate open source. Just we like to do. Android devs like to Android dev. So apologies ahead of time for anyway, sorry.
There we go. All right. Don't forget another way that you can interact with everybody in a different sort of way is Club Twit. That's our ad-free subscription tier. Yes, all of our shows, no ads. Yes, you get extra content. You get Hands on Windows, Hands on Mac, the Untitled Linux show. You get Stacy's Book Club. All this stuff, all this content that happens within the club. And then you also get access to our members-only Discord. All that for $7 per month. Check it out. It's really a cool space to communicate with other fans of the shows and the hosts. A lot of the guests are on there, co-hosts, contributors. There's a lot of us hanging out there. So check it out. twit.tv/Club Twit. As for this show, all you got to do is remember twit.tv/AAA. If you get lost on the internet, just go there. And we will recalibrate you and make sure that you're subscribed to All About Android. That's really the most important thing. Subscribe, you'll get our episodes. You never have to think about it anymore. It just appears like magic. But we can't thank you enough for watching and listening this week. And we will see you next time on All About Android. Have a good night. Bye, everybody.
Hey, what's going on, everybody? I am Ant Pruitt, and I am the host of Hands on Photography here on Twit TV. I know you got yourself a fancy smartphone, you got yourself a fancy camera, but your pictures are still lacking. Can't quite figure out what the heck shutter speed means? Watch my show. I got you covered. Want to know more about just the ISO and exposure triangle in general? Yeah, I got you covered. Or if you got all of that down, you want to get into lighting, making things look better by changing the lights around you. I got you covered on that too. So check us out each and every Thursday here on the network. Go to twit.tv/hop and subscribe today.